Morning and welcome to Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher's IRS webinar. I'm Shirley Martinez, District Director for the Congresswoman. Today we will hear a presentation from Arlene Good of the IRS, followed by a period of Q&A from pre-submitted questions you sent in while registering. I will now turn it over to Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher.
Great, thank you so much, Shirley, and thanks to all of you who are joining us today for this webinar. I'm really glad to be with you virtually and really excited to have Arlene Good from the IRS with us today to give us a presentation, answer some questions we got in advance, and go through the things that are most on your mind. We did get a lot of questions, so I am not going to spend too long talking now before we get started with that presentation. But I do want to thank you all for being here and just make a couple of notes about some of the things that we are seeing in Congress and things that we're trying to do to help address some of the concerns that I know you have. As you all know, as we know, as we're getting into the third year of the coronavirus pandemic, it is the third year that the IRS is going into tax return filing season with the operations and staffing and workload all impacted by the pandemic. And this filing season, we have already heard, will present a lot of challenges for taxpayers as the IRS continues to work through a backlog of unprocessed returns from last year and is really facing increasing demands as some of the adjustments and some of the things that have happened over the last couple of years lead to a lot of questions. So that's part of why we wanted to do this today, to help answer questions you may have. We also have a local taxpayer advocate service that we work with closely in our office. And I know the taxpayer advocate service is working very hard to alleviate its backlog. I met with the taxpayer advocate, the acting taxpayer advocate here a couple of weeks ago to get an update that they're doing a great job of clearing out the backlog of cases and issues that they are handling. And then 2 weeks ago, when we voted on the appropriations bills, the omnibus appropriations package to fund the government for fiscal year 2022, that package provided $12.6 billion to help the IRS deal with this backlog of returns and correspondence. So in addition to the assistance with the backlog, the funding will also help the agency improve customer service and its web applications, modernize its technology, and increase enforcement. And so that is the goal, to help make sure that we're getting the IRS the funds it needs to serve the taxpayers across the country. But as a reminder, we are here in our district office where I am today to help you with matters involving all federal agencies, including the IRS. So if you want to open a case with our office or have questions where we may be able to help you, please don't hesitate to call or email us. You probably all get my weekly email that always has links and numbers in it, just to make sure that you know that we're here to help you as well. But today we really wanted to provide a space for you to have your questions answered about tax filing season, whether it's refundable credits that you should include on your return or common errors to avoid. Lots of questions there. And I'm so glad to be joined by Arlene Good, who's a stakeholder liaison for the IRS. She's going to provide a presentation for us first on deadlines for filing, extensions, how and where to file, as well as some of the new changes like the child tax credit and updates. So she has a wealth of knowledge to bring to this discussion, and I'm really grateful for her partnership and her help answering questions from people in the 7th Congressional District today. So thank you, Arlene, for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I'll circle back when it's time for questions, and we'll go through some of the questions that were submitted to our office in advance. So thanks so much for being with us, and look forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Ms. Fletcher, for inviting me to speak to your constituents about the new changes with the tax law. So can you hear me well? And can you see my PowerPoint presentation? Okay, let me just do one thing here. Okay, now you can see. Okay, great.
You can see the presentation.
Okay, fantastic. So I am Arlene Good, Senior Stakeholder Liaison with the Internal Revenue Service. I'm located in the Houston office. Right now, we're still virtual, but my POD is in the downtown office. Just to give you a little background about myself, I have been with the service for over 30 years. I want to say 30 plus years. And I started out in customer service, answering tax questions over the phone, and moved on as a taxpayer specialist, taxpayer service specialist. And then I went into the examination division as a tax compliance officer, and I'm currently in stakeholder liaison, in communication and liaison. So I've done a lot with the service. I've, definitely love educating taxpayers as well as industry taxpayers about the different tax law changes. So today I'm going to just share some filing season 2022. Get ready to file your 2021 tax return. So the information is going to mainly focus on the tax credits that were changed for this tax season. So hopefully you'll have your pencil and paper and you'll be able to ask some questions at the end of the presentation. So I want to bring your attention to the IRS operations during COVID-19. This is on our webpage. This gives you updates, including current times for returns, the processing times, refunds, and other services. We periodically update this page. I just recently inserted this on yesterday. You can see the dates when there's a section of what you can expect is updated, and they have the dates are here. So the filing a tax return was recently updated on March 18th. And if there are any changes, then you will see the most recent date there on this page. And the information is in English and Spanish, so please feel free. If you don't have it in your favorites, then make sure you bookmark it in your favorites. Now, also, we are processing mail, tax returns, payments, and correspondence that taxpayers have submitted. Now, of course, during COVID-19 has caused some significant delays in our services. They include the live phone support, processing tax returns that are filed on paper, and answering any mail from taxpayers. So the Commissioner Reddick has made some significant changes to get help with hiring, as well as allowing overtime for some employees to work additional hours, and also bringing back some employees that may have left the service to help with the filing season. So no worries, we will get your returns processed and get the refunds in your accounts as quickly as possible. I also want to bring your attention to the special filing season alert. This is also on irs.gov under news and announcements. I did kind of highlight that so that you could see that. When you pull up irs.gov, you may have to arrow over or hit the dots at the bottom of the page in order to get to the special filing season alert. One of the alerts that was just recently updated, I think as of yesterday, was one of the changes with Form 8962, which is with the health insurance through the marketplace. So check out the alerts because they give you up-to-date information as soon as we receive the information. This is our way to communicate to the public about the developments of tax returns, refunds, and any other letters or notices and much more. Now, you asked, when did filing season begin? Well, the Internal Revenue Service put out a news release, and this is how we communicate to our taxpayers with the news release. And this was as of January 10th. We informed the American people that the filing season was going to begin and open on January 24th this year. We had to do a lot of updating, performing programming and testing to critically ensure that our systems would run as smoothly as possible. We updated our programming to make sure that the child tax credit and the other credits, recovery rebate credits, were actually uploaded so that when taxpayers file their 2021 returns, then they would be able to process as smoothly as possible. So that's why the deadline, the change in the filing date, and also on the deadline for filing this year, it's typically April 15th. but it will be April 18th, and April 18th for most taxpayers. However, if you have family and friends that are in the other states of, in the District of Columbia, normally recognizes their holidays. So we're dealing with the patriotic change with the tax laws. The District of Columbia, there's taxpayers who live in Maine and Massachusetts have until April 19th to file their tax returns, not the April 18th. So they do have an extra date. And then also, if you filed an extension, you will have until October 17th to file your tax return, your individual tax returns. So just wanted to make mention that the deadlines often change due to the District of Columbia holidays, and then also the Patriotic Day holidays that is recognized by those other states. Now, you want to know, what are your options to file your tax returns? Well, there are many options to file. We recommend the free file or fillable forms, and that's if your income is under $73,000, then you can use the IRS software, which is the IRS free file. You also can use a free tax preparation site, which I'll talk about shortly, about the different VITA sites. And then we also have commercial software. Some of you may use those, where you purchase those at different locations where you can upload and file your tax returns. We also have the authorized e-file provider. And look at our social media image. We try to get the information out to all our taxpayers that use social media. Is the more important than ever to file your tax returns electronically this year. We all found out about that from taxpayers who were entitled to receive the economic impact payment. And the fastest way to get that to them was if they had direct deposit. It was a safer way to get that. But if you don't have a bank account, then please, you can get one. There are many free accounts that are available at the various financial institutions. Also, you can check the status of your refund under Where is my refund? Now that's available 24 hours a day after you've e-filed your tax return. However, if you've paper filed for whatever reason, then you would need to wait until 4 weeks to check where's my refund. So this is the free tax preparation. They are called the VITA, Voluntary Income Tax Assistance Centers. If you make less than $58,000 or less in 2021, then we have volunteers. I don't know if they're standing by, but most likely they are ready to prepare your tax return. I'm also a VITA volunteer, and I also volunteer to prepare tax returns as well. So many, you don't have to necessarily be with the Internal Revenue Service, but if you're interested in being a VITA volunteer, you do receive the training. And so those are sisters that were available to receive the training, then they became VITA volunteers. We also have the ARP tax aid sites that taxpayers can go into as well. The VITA tool locator as well as the ARP site tool locators are both located on irs.gov. So if you don't know where the free sites are, you can go to irs.gov and then just type in the search engine VITA tool locator. And then we also have a toll-free number that you can call and it'll look up your zip code. You just type in your zip code and it will give you the closest location nearest you. So again, the information is free. We don't have a lot of taxpayers that take advantage of that. So please share that information. They can go to irs.gov/VITA. Now, if you don't use the VITA volunteers or the free file option, then you can also choose a tax professional. And choosing a tax professional, again, the information is on our website. The page will give you information on what kind of tax preparer do you need. Depending on the type of return that you file and the additional schedules, you also can check the credentials of the tax professionals. And then if you have a complaint about a tax professional, we will give you information on what you need to do in order to file a complaint. And sometimes it's warranted. So choose your tax professionals, choose them wisely, because you're ensuring that they are preparing your return based on the information that you provide. And then under penalties of perjury, you're saying you're signing the return, either it be electronically or physically signing the return, saying that you agree with the information that they prepared. Now, since you filed your tax returns, you want to know how long will it take to get your refund? Well, there are many different factors that can affect the timely refunds that are being issued. Typically, we've said within 21 days, within less than 21 days. However, with the processing, the new tax laws, with the earned income credit and the additional child tax credit, those refunds could not be released until mid-February, regardless if you didn't have, if the full refund wasn't just for the earned income tax credit. So those refunds didn't go out until after mid-February. However, with the tax law changes, we may have had to send correspondence to some taxpayers regarding their credits or handling of their tax return. In that case, a notice needed to be issued in order to request the additional information. So therefore, the 21 days may not apply to all taxpayers. In some case, the IRS had to, of course, with the special handling, had to ask for some additional explanation regarding the entries on your return. But again, our system can detect when you electronically file, and that's why we encourage you to electronically file, because some of the issues can be detected up front. Our system detects any possible errors, any missing information, and also, and I hate to say it, any suspected identity theft. Now we know, as we're sleeping at night, the identity thieves are out prowling and they're stealing our information. So therefore, if that's the case, and when your returns are electronically filed, if you receive a reject, meaning that your return has not been accepted, and it says, it'll give you a reason code indicating if someone else has filed, well, it will say that this return has already been filed. That may be an indication that someone has maybe stolen your identity. Just an indication, but that's a conversation that you can have with your tax professional, or you would need to call IRS. We do have information on our website about identity fraud. If you feel like you're a victim of identity fraud, you'll need to file with us, especially if there's a tax TIN number, your taxpayer's, your social security number, TIN number has been compromised. Then you can file so that we can issue you an IP PIN. Now, there are some cases also, in order for you to determine when your refund is going to be issued, you can, as I mentioned before, check where's my refund. And on the IRS website, we will provide you with the date if it's available on when to expect the refund. And direct deposit is the safest and the fastest way for you to receive your refund. So now let me get into some of the federal changes with the tax year that will affect your 2021 return and future returns. And let me just mention, the changes came about with 3 different laws. The first was the Consolidated Appropriation Act that came into law on December 27th, 2020. And that extended and made clarification and technical corrections to the CARES Act. Also, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 that was enacted on March 11th, which was the 1-year anniversary of the COVID-19 that was declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. Now, the legislation provides both immediate tax relief for tax year 2020 and tax relief for tax year 2021 and beyond. And with this act, under this act, it gave the 3rd round, or we issued the 3rd round of the economic impact payment, and the tax provision in 2021 also included the temporary enhancement of the child tax credit, the earned income credit, and the child and dependent care credit, as well as the premium tax credit. And legislation also included a new series of payroll tax credits. The last one was the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, and that was enacted on November 15th, 2021. And it made a retroaction and termination of the employee retention credit as of September 30th, 2021 for all businesses other than the recovery startup business. But for today, I'm going to focus on the CARES Act with the tax law credits, And so what right now I want to kind of highlight under the American Rescue Plan Act, which issued the third round of the economic impact payment. And with this, the American Rescue Plan made significant and temporary enhancements, as I mentioned, to the child and dependent care credit, the earned income credit, the child tax credit. So if look at the social media image, have you seen the American Rescue Plan expanding the child and dependent care credit? Take a fresh look at that. So if you haven't had a conversation maybe with your tax professional, then you may need to do so, because they will ask the questions about, did you receive the child tax credit? Do you have any dependents? You know, they'll go through the questions also about the child tax credit and if you receive any economic impact payments during the year. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, under the American Rescue Plan, with the child and dependent care credit, this credit is fully refundable for taxpayers, but your principal place of abode must have been in the United States for more than half of the year. Now, in the case where you have a married filing joint return, then at least one spouse must satisfy the principal place of abode requirement. And then taxpayers who do not meet that requirement, then it's a non-refundable, and it reverts back to the 2020 tax rules on the child and dependent care credit. Now, there is also under the CARES Act a dollar limit on qualifying expenses, and that was increased to $8,000. Before it was $3,000. And for one qualifying person, and $16,000 for two or more qualifying person. Previously, it was $6,000. So you see that's a large increase. And also the credit rate has been increased, and that is up to a maximum of 50%. Prior, it was 35% of the employment-related expenses. Now, there's some income phase-out amounts that have also increased. And the income phase out is when your adjusted gross income reaches, and I'm not sure if that applies to any of us, but it might, $438,000. So that's when the credit would actually phase out. Now, for taxpayers who receive dependent benefits from their employers, the exclusion amount increased to $10,500 from previously $5,000, or $5,250, and that's from $2,500 for married filing separate returns in 2021. So you can see that the child and dependent care credit made some significant changes as well. Now, looking at the earned income credit under the American Rescue Plan. Now, this was a temporary expansion of the earned income credit for taxpayers who do not have a qualifying child. Typically, you had to have a qualifying child. Also, the overall credit was a more widely available, and it made a broader range for eligibility. For filers that are claiming the credit without a qualifying child, the minimum age to claim the credit was lowered to age 19. Before it was 25. And then also for students, the age was lowered to age 24. Now, the law also eliminated a maximum age to claim the credit for taxpayers who did not have a child. And you can see the social image there, workers over 64 years of age may qualify for the earned income credit. So grandparents that are caring for their grandchildren, the parents maybe are not around and they're, need some assistance with caring for their children, their grandchildren. That was changed to allow that to take place. And then the law also increased permanent amounts that were also changed. It provided special rules for spouses who meet certain earned income tax credit to now be able to qualify, such as married filing separate spouses who do not file a joint return with their spouse. Of course, they needed to be apart from their spouse, did not live with a spouse during the last 6 months of the tax year, or they could had been legally separated according to the state law in a written or separation agreement. So the American Rescue Plan also covered a temporary special rule for purposes of calculating the credit for 2021, and taxpayers may use their 2019 earned income for 2021 if their 2019 earned income was greater than 2021 earned income. So those are some significant changes with the earned income tax credit as well. Now let's talk about the enhancements to under the American Rescue Plan with the enhanced child tax credit. The enhanced child tax credit provided changes with the age limit, which it had been extended, has been extended to qualifying children that are 17 years of age instead of 16. So that's under age 18. And the credit is fully refundable for taxpayers who had a principal place of abode in the United States for more than half of the year. And then taxpayers don't need to meet a residence requirement if the credit would be a combination of a non-refundable and refundable tax credit. This means that individuals with no earned income can also claim the full amount of the child tax credit for 2021, even without earned income, as long as they had a principal place of abode in the United States. So the maximum amount of the enhanced earned income credit, enhanced child tax credit has been increased from $2,000 per child to $3,600 per child for children under age 6 and $3,000 per child for children age 6 through 17. Now, the enhanced amount of the credit, which is $3,600, is subject to different adjusted gross income thresholds, which is $150,000 for married filing joint returns, $112,500 for head of household, and $75,000 for all other filers. And there's also advanced payment of the child tax credit up to 50% of the estimated allowable expenses that were paid, credits for 2021. Now let's look at the comparison for 2021 versus 2020. And I just want to make note that remember that the principal place of abode must be in the United States for more than half of the year in order to claim the non-refundable versus the refundable credit, because those rules did apply to some taxpayers. But under the provision for the maximum age of a child, you can claim the credit for age 17 and under for 2021. In 2020, it was under age 16 and under. Maximum payment amount per qualifying child was $3,000 and $3,600, depending on the age of the child. And in 2020, it was $2,000. The tax credit refundable amount is fully refundable if they resided in the United States for more than half of the year. That was it currently in 2021. In 2020, it was up to $1,400 per child that was refunded. That was a refundable credit. And then the earned income threshold for the refundable credit, if no income requirement, you can have zero income and still qualify for the full credit as long as you resided in the United States for more than half of the year. That's the current. And then last year, you must have earned income more than $2,500 to qualify for the refundable credit. And then the phase out, as I previously mentioned, the child tax credit amount will start to decrease at $75,000 for single, married filing separate, $112,500, and head of household, $150,000. Yes, $75,000 for single, married filing separate, $112,000 for head of household filers, $150,000, as well as the married filing joint. And then you saw the CTC amount will start to decrease at $200,000 for married filing separate, single, and head of household, and $400,000. That was last year, $400,000. And so you see the big difference in the changes for the child tax credit for the current versus last year. Now, also wanted to touch on the advance payments that were paid during the tax year. Under the American Rescue Plan, some of you did receive the advanced child tax credit, and we started sending those out. It was based on the most current tax filing for either 2020 or 2019. They were prepayments and they were paid monthly. We started those payments in July, on July 15th, that ran through December 15th, and it was 50% of the estimated amount for 2021 child tax credit. Now, I want to also mention that for taxpayers who reside in Puerto Rico, did not receive the advanced child tax credit. However, they would receive the recovery rebate credit when they file their tax return for the current year. And that will be on, of course, the 1040 PR or the SS forms. Now, I also wanted to mention about the third round of the economic impact payment. Those payments, we started sending those out to taxpayers. We're no longer issuing the third round of the economic impact payment. It would be a recovery rebate credit when you file the tax return. And also those payment amounts were $1,400 for individuals with a valid Social Security number, of course, and $2,800 for married couples, and also $1,400 for each qualifying dependent with a valid Social Security number or adoption taxpayer identification number that was issued by the IRS. Now, some taxpayers, in addition to the third round of the economic impact payment, also received a plus up payment. Now, this plus up payment was if you received, which we were comparing the 2019 tax return information and information that we received from Social Security Administration, from the Railroad Retirement Administration, as well as from the other government agencies that from the VA. And then the payments, if they were larger, if your income was a little bit larger or more income than what was reported, then you were entitled to receive a larger economic impact payment on their 2020 tax returns, which we call them plus up payments. You receive those during the year, an additional payment. Also, the recovery rebate credit. Some taxpayers, maybe they got less than the full amount that they were expecting, then they were entitled to receive a recovery rebate credit when they filed their tax return. So when you filed your 2021 tax return, which is why, and I'll mention this later, we sent notices. We sent notices out when you were recipients of the economic impact payment to inform you the amount that we paid out. So you'll need to indicate on your tax return about those payments so we can determine if you receive all of the monies that you were eligible to receive. And we have questions and answers on the IRS webpage if you have a question about the recovery rebate credit. So this is a reconcile. Some taxpayers may be required to reconcile their credits, their advanced child tax credits. So if you receive the advanced payments, when you file your 2021 tax return, you'll need to compare the advanced tax credit payments that you received in 2021 with the amount of the child tax credit that you can properly claim on the 2021 return. Now, if you receive less than the amount that you're eligible for, you will need to claim the credit for the remaining amount because we didn't, give you all the monies that you were entitled to receive. If you receive more than the amount that you were eligible for, then of course you may need to repay some or all of the excess payments when you file the return. Now, we started sending out letter 6419 last year in December, and that provided the total amount of the advanced child tax credit payments that you received in 2021. Now, you need to keep that letter because, again, when you take that either to your tax professional or if you choose to use the free file or any one of the filing options that I mentioned earlier, it will ask how much did you receive any child tax credit? And if so, what was the amount of the payment? It'll just list that. And so you'll just need to refer back to the letter just to make sure. You won't have to do it from memory, but the letter will give you that amount that we paid to you. Now, I also just put this on the screen, which is, I don't know if you've seen this, publication 5534G. This is a publication which talk about or tell you about letter 6419. And this letter we sent this out as well, informing recipients of the advanced child tax credit payments and the third round of the economic impact payment. The publication is in English as well as Spanish. And we're also, just sending this information out. You'll need to keep that as well when you file your tax return to inform, to make sure you claim the proper amount on the tax return. So the information in the letters when preparing the tax return will reduce any errors or any delays in processing. So just keep that in mind. And then this is IRS Letter 6475, and that provided the total amount of the third round of the economic impact payment and any plus up payments that you receive. This letter also has been issued to taxpayers that were recipients of that, and also you would need to keep that as well. Now, I also want to cover some of the resources that we have and then give some of the updates that I have not covered. And this is what I wanted to share since we're talking about getting ready to file your tax return. If those of you who have not filed, we have publication 5348. It's a get ready to file publication. As you can see, we have it in English as well as Spanish. Hot off the press, the Spanish publication was uploaded on irs.gov, so you can find them both there now. Tax planning is for everyone. No matter what language you speak, taxpayers can use this publication to help you get ready to file your 2021 federal income tax return. And we want the returns to be accurate to avoid any processing delays that can show your tax refund, and you won't have any delays, with your refund. So make sure that you, just rely on that publication, just kind of go through it and make sure you have everything that you need to prepare your return. Now, we know that information can be difficult to understand in any language. Sometimes English is hard to understand, but it can even be more challenging if that information isn't offered in a language that you know best. Now, to broaden our reach and to provide better service to the non-English speaking communities, we've developed a new language webpage that's on irs.gov. And it has the basic tax information in 21 languages. So taxpayers can choose from the language that's listed to get the information needed to file their federal tax return. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, we have the over-the-phone interpretation service, which we call OPI. Now, it's a no-cost service where language interpreters interpret a telephone call between the IRS and a taxpayer. It's a three-way call. Again, it's free, it's no cost. and it translates for both the IRS employee and the non-English speaking taxpayer in the taxpayer's language. We call that, we go through Lion Bridge, which is a current OPI service contractor that IRS uses to access more than 300 languages. And over the past 6 years, IRS has used 121 languages, enabling IRS employees to communicate with the limited English speaking taxpayers so that we could help them meet their tax responsibilities. And I also wanted to share with you now, Publication 17 has been around a long time, but in order to continue to be able to communicate with the limited English speaking taxpayers, we've increased the availability of information to taxpayers and ultimately improve the taxpayer experience for the underserved population across the United States, including those who have limited English proficiency. So last year was our first time where we published the 1040 Schedule 1 and 2 and 3 in the instructions and their instructions in Spanish. Earlier this year, we translated Publication 17 in Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Russian. We have the simplified and traditional translation. So make sure you inform your constituents of that. And then also the IRS is assisting taxpayers on Saturdays at our taxpayer assistance centers. They're open the second Saturday of each month. We started this in February. It's going to run through May on the actually the next one is April 9th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You don't have to make an appointment. It's a first come, first serve. Please check. I advise you to check irs.gov because sometimes the availability may change without notice. So some of the information that they can help you with is online account assistance, the 2021 tax credit assistance, several different things. We'll list all of that on irs.gov. You can see our social media. We have that in English as well as Spanish. And the IRS Online Account. I don't know if any of you have an online account with the IRS, but you can view your balance due. You can create a payment plan. You can make payments, access your tax records. If you don't or have not set up an online account, you can do that now. We have the information on our website. It is a securely access where you can access your tax information. And look, use IRS Online Account to access your tax information. And if you do that, you're a smart cookie. Now, I wanted to also mention, which was mentioned previously, the IRS is hiring. We haven't seemed like we've done that, not this mass hiring in a long time, but we're hiring more than 5,000 positions in our service processing centers that are located in Austin, Texas, Ogden, Utah, Kansas City, Missouri. No prior taxpayer experience is required. No prior tax experience is required. I'm excited because there are, people that are looking for jobs. And with this mass hiring, we are also hiring in some locations on the spot. Wanted to give you this on March 24th and 25th in Austin. The qualified applicants may receive job offers on the spot. So brush up your resumes. And if you know someone that's looking for a job with the federal government, with IRS, then have them to go to the Austin site. They can check out the information that's on jobs.irs.gov for more detail about that. And I believe that concludes my presentation. I know that I've shared a lot of information that you've had to absorb. I can provide a copy of my PowerPoint if you need that, but the best source also is irs.gov. Please refer to that. I also encourage you to sign up. We have subscription services such as quick alerts. If you're not signed up, it's just putting in your email address and you will automatically receive any changes or updates in a quick alert through your email address. So please stay connected with your local stakeholder liaison, which I'm the only one in Houston, so you can find me. If you encounter any issues with IRS notices, anything with IRS policies, practices, and procedures, then you can contact me. I think I have my email address on the last slide, as well as my telephone number. So thank you, Ms.
Great.
Fletcher.
Thank you so much, Arlene. That was really helpful, and you definitely covered a lot of ground, especially on the recent changes that we've seen with the child tax credit, with the economic impact payments from the pandemic, just so many things that I think are helpful and anticipated a lot of the questions people submitted to us, but we do still have several questions that have come in, and I just want to try to go through them with you as quickly as possible so we can get as many questions answered as possible. I will say, as someone who gets asked questions a lot, you may not know all of the answers off the top of your head, and so if you don't, we will work to get the answers from you and your team and get them back to the constituents that submitted them. And I think it's great that you offered to share your presentation, and if you'll share that with us, we will send it out to everyone who registered for the webinar today. But I've got a few questions that were submitted in advance, and I'd love to just run through them kind of rapid fire as quickly as we can, just to get as many questions answered as possible. But the first came from Sharama, who asked, what should I do if I still haven't received my 2020 tax return? Will it affect my 2021 filing? What if previous years are also delayed in processing?
Okay, thank you for that question. As I mentioned, we are processing tax returns. So if you haven't received your 2020 information that you file, your refund, if that's what you're expecting, then you can still file your 2021 tax return. We'll just, still be down the pipeline with processing your 2020 return. We will process that as soon as possible, but don't delay. Go ahead and file the 2021 return. File it electronically. I would recommend you filing electronically, which will be the fastest way for you to file that return. So please go ahead and file.
Terrific. Okay, and that's that April 18th deadline that you gave us earlier. Another question from Linda, who said, I received my tax refund last year, but then unemployment benefits were made tax exempt. So I haven't received my unemployment refund. I've already called the IRS, but I haven't gotten an estimated completion time. Can you give her any guidance about what's happening with the unemployment benefits? Obviously, her specific return you don't have in front of you, but is that caused a delay? What should she expect? And should she also just go ahead and file her 2021 return as well?
Okay, with the unemployment, I'm not sure if she filed her return prior to the change with the tax law where the unemployment became exempt.
It looks like that from the question, that she filed and then the benefits became exempt after the fact, after she'd already gone through the whole process.
Yes, and we were automatically making changes, from my understanding, to those returns where she didn't have to file an amended return.
Okay.
In some cases, some taxpayers, of course, we're asking for patience as we work through those issues. But if you've gone through the normal channel and you need to contact the taxpayer advocate office in order for them to intercede to try to get that resolved, then feel free to do so. The taxpayer advocate information is there. They advocate for the taxpayer. But I would recommend don't wait until you receive that before you file your 2021 return. Still file the 2021 return.
So she should file her 2021 return. It does. And I think what I'm hearing you say is the unemployment benefit adjustment will be made automatically and she doesn't have to do an amended return.
It will.
There. Okay. Now,
right.
Another question, I think some of which you can answer, some of which you probably can't, is Mary and Julie both asked, what should I do if I haven't received my stimulus checks and recovery rebate credits? Will there be any additional tax breaks related to the pandemic? I think the second question might be more directed at me. And right now, I haven't seen any additional legislation moving through at this time. But for those who have pandemic related assistance that they haven't received, how should they proceed? Okay.
If the taxpayer did not receive the economic impact payment, then they could, when they file their tax return, they will receive, or you would indicate on the return you did not receive the full amount of the economic impact payment, and therefore you can claim the recovery rebate credit when you file the tax return. So if they have not filed the tax return, then they would need to file so that they would be, we can determine if they're entitled to receive the economic impact payment. And in some cases, you know, you have to look at the taxpayer's filing status. We, found that the money was sent out and maybe the taxpayer didn't receive it, but you would need to call the IRS so that an assister can look up your account, who have access to your account, can look up the information to determine if the check was issued. If you never received it, we may need to do a payment tracer. And if not, if that was not the case, then you can get the recovery rebate credit when you file the tax return.
Okay, another pandemic program related question here. Marie asked, if my PPP loan has been forgiven by the SBA, is that considered taxable income?
Now on the PPP loan, I'm not really sure, but I can do a little research for you and get that answer to you. Ms. Fletcher, I can get that answer to you, and so that you can respond to her question.
Terrific. Well, I know we helped a lot of people get PPP loans in this district, so that's probably a question a lot of folks have. And if we can work together on the answer, then we'll circulate it broadly as well. But certainly we'll work to get Marie the specific answer to her question. Another kind of more broad question, not pandemic related, but Alejandro asked, I'm retired. He says, I'm retired and my only income is Social Security benefits. Do I need to file taxes?
Okay, thank you for that question. Typically, if Social Security benefits is your only source of income, then your Social Security typically would not be taxable. Based on your filing status, if you have other income in addition to your Social Security, and for example, if you're single, then your other income in addition to your Social Security would need to exceed $25,000 in order for your benefits to be taxed. So if that was your only source, then no, you would not have a filing requirement.
Okay, thanks. Another kind of broad question here, and Cesar asked, he said, without going into a really detailed calculation or data gathering of expenses like medical expenses, can you give just sort of general guidance about how you determine whether to use standard or itemized deductions?
Okay, sometimes, the IRS publication that we have, publication 17 that I mentioned, is one of the sources that you can use. But now the standard deduction is higher than it has been in the past, that make it a little harder for taxpayers to overcome that standard deduction. So the standard typically is the best way to go because you want to take the higher deduction. So if you did not have any charitable contributions, I would say you don't own a home where you have mortgage, interest, and taxes on your home, and some of the other itemized deductions that you can claim. I don't have the Schedule A in front of me, but if it does not exceed the standard deduction because it's given, then it's going to benefit you to take the standard versus itemized, because the higher deduction is the standard deduction based on your filing status. So just add up all of those expenses. We now have the software that you can use, and that will ask you the pertinent questions that you would need in order to determine if you should itemize or take the standard deduction. But again, if you don't have those additional expenses, then the standard is the best way to go.
Okay, terrific. And I know we're running right up on our time. If I can keep you for an extra minute or two to go over a couple of questions that we got, that would be great. We got a question from John asking about the IRS recognition software, and we've heard that from a few folks. His question is the IRS using ID.me for tax returns, and do I need to provide facial recognition?
We made some changes with that ID.me, and those specific changes, it is listed on irs.gov. I don't have the information because it's pretty detailed. So I will also include that in my answers to that question. And so it'll be clear what we're using now, as far as we have other methods that we're using to identify taxpayers, but that ID.me, we're no longer using that, if I'm not mistaken. Okay,
terrific. That was a question we heard from a lot of folks. And then I know you touched on one of the questions about hiring new employees, and you mentioned that folks who can work in Austin near us, as well as other centers, of course, you're hiring. One question is just, is there an expectation that's been set yet from how long that might help impact the processing times? That question was from Chris, and I don't know if you have an estimate that y'all are working from about increasing the processing time as a result of the hiring, or just we're doing everything as fast as we can, which is something I know to be true.
Yes, we are doing everything as fast as we can. You know, the hiring with any job, regardless of with the federal government or any other agency, it's a process. So we haven't even had the interviews yet. And I just mentioned the 24th and the 25th in Austin, where we're doing the hiring on the spot. But we have many other jobs as well that's on USA Jobs that you can apply for. I won't say that it'll be an immediate fix for the processing, because again, it's a process that we have to go through in order to, you know, get folks on, get them trained, and then ready to do the job. So it's coming. We're not there yet, but we're just starting at the bottom floor trying to get.
Yeah, well, and I think the goal is that this will be a long-term solution to help in the big picture, having additional manpower, having people there to assist into the future, and also improving the technology. I know we've talked a lot about some of the letters and the form letters that come out. So folks who are on this webinar, I think, are most likely to be ones who have questions, who've dealt with the agency in the past, and really have some very, very specific questions. We're not able to get to all of them, unfortunately, but the answers you've given, the overview you've given has been really helpful. And for the folks whose questions we didn't get to yet, we will work to get answers to you for your questions. I would like to remind everyone, as you mentioned, Arlene, the Taxpayer Advocate Service. We work with the Taxpayer Advocate here in our office. Our constituent services team is here to serve our district and our constituents. So please don't hesitate to call us as well. That's what we're here for. And I really appreciate you taking your time today to help the many constituents who have gotten on this webinar, listen to you. It's incredibly helpful. I look forward to reviewing your presentation again and really being able to answer those questions. But it was so thorough and so helpful. And I know your time is valuable. I think everybody here appreciates it. So on behalf of our entire team and our entire district, thank you so much, Arlene, for spending some time with us today, and good luck with tax season.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, y'all take care.